Good morning, everybody, from a very wet Wales. I wanted to do today a Facebook Live to talk about part of my work, the part that I call the awakening. However, my Wi-Fi at the moment is being, to put it mildly, temperamental. So instead of subjecting you to frozen screens and can't hear me, I thought I'd record it and put it out. So apologies, it's not live, but that's the reason behind it. So what am I talking about? Well, first of all, for those who don't know me, my name is Kathy Price, and I have developed, I call my work, whatever you want to say, point of balance. And the thought behind that is that when a system, be it a person or an animal of any description, is in balance, they are at health. So we're looking at balance in physical, mental, emotional and spiritual. Excuse me. And the way I work is by working in the field to help the system I'm working with, wherever it is in the world. Most of my work at the moment is distance, needless to say. But yes, to help the system recognize where balance is. It's not my job to put them into balance. It's to remind them, facilitate them, be the catalyst, whichever word you choose. So one part of my work I call sessions, which is primarily about helping the system find balance. And then the other part is called the awakening. And that's what I want to speak about today. So the awakening, in essence, is about enhancing your connection to everything. Absolutely everything. It's helping you connect to the field, basically. So you're going out into the universe, you're going down into the earth, and you're also going inside. You're going into yourself. You're connecting to yourself, which is most important. And that's part of what I want to talk about today. It's been quite surprising in some ways that over the last, I suppose, 5-6 months, I've had so many people getting in touch with me, having found out about the awakening and sort of out of the blue getting in touch and asking if they might receive the awakening. So the awakening is a once in a lifetime process. You only ever need to do it once. It's carried out over 2 sessions, usually 24 hours apart, but it can be up to 2 or 3 days, but I generally do it 24 hours apart. The sessions last about 45 minutes to an hour each time. And you don't have to do anything. You just lie back or sit back and receive. The difference between a session and the awakening is that a session is carried out very freeform. So I'm working in the field. I'm not working on particular points of the body, and it's just the system I'm working with. As I said, it could be a person or an animal, a horse, dog, whatever, picks up that information, picks up the nudge on how to get back into balance, put it that way. Whereas with the awakening, it is a very structured process. So I'm working on particular lines along the body, I'm working on particular points, and a lot of these do correspond to meridians and acupuncture points. I had the awakening years ago, and I had not experienced, I'd experienced very little energetic medicine before I had it done. Energetic sessions, healing, whatever you want to call it. So it was quite a dramatic experience for me, especially the night between the 2 sessions. But I think that was because my system just had never experienced any of these energies before, and so it was quite a strong reaction to it. But what I generally recommend is, if somebody is interested in it, to have a session of point of balance first, and that prepares the system for the awakening. However, as I said, that is a recommendation. It is not, you've got to do it, and it's totally your choice, and I'll go with whatever you decide, but that's what I recommend. So what is the awakening about? As I said, it's about enhancing your connection to the universe, in essence, the unified field, to everything that is. And the one thing that I've been studying recently, in a very sort of superficial level, I have to admit, but it's ancient cultures and how they basically innately have this connection. This is how they speak to animals, to plants, how they know what to eat, how they know where to go hunting. It's because they have this internal connection as well as the external connection. But if you look at the Western world and what we're generally taught, there are 5 senses. There's sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And if you look at all of those, each of those senses is about us receiving information from the external world. We see a tree, we smell something in the air, we see something, we hear something. And yes, our bodies have got to interpret those messages, but everything about those senses, they wouldn't react unless it's listening to or seeing or smelling something outside of ourselves. So there's a whole world that we don't sense, and that's the internal world. Now there's a book called New Self, New World, I believe it's called, by a guy called Philip Shepherd. And he coins a new term, which he says is spatioception. Now, if you think of proprioception, I can never say that word, proprioception, which is about us sensing our place in the world where we are, our sense of balance and being in the world. Spatioception is about, he has made this word up, but he says it's about feeling the space within us. And you might think, well, what's that all about? And why is that important? The thing is that I'm sure you have experienced when you've been, stressed. You're late for a meeting, you've had an argument, you've forgotten something, you've got to rush back home, whatever it is. I'm sure you can relate that when you're in that space, you feel tight, you feel contracted, and it's not a nice feeling. And the trouble is that our society, as we've got it today, most people live in some level of that contraction just because of the way the Western world runs. Everything is about, doing things faster, doing things bigger, doing things better, having more things. And so there's a continual subliminal stress, which obviously gets higher at certain points. So for the most part, Western people are living in a contracted state. They're tight. There's no space within them due to the stress that they perceive and that they live in. Think of the opposite. So whatever floats your boat for where you say you were relaxed, have a think about that. So it could be, like for me, it's being with a horse or being outside in nature. It could be sitting on a beach, listening to music, whatever. That's when you relax down and basically you expand. And so you have more space within you. So your spatioception would be telling you, I've got more room, I've got more space. And the thing about that is that once you can get to that place of space, that's when you have room to really connect with everything. Now, the art of being aware of spatioception means that you become aware when you're tight, when you're contracted, and then you have that choice of moving into space. Now, all of this, of course, there are scientific correlations with the nervous system. You want to think of sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, absolutely. There's major connections, correlations, the two run side by side, vagal nerve, everything like that, and fight and flight or relax. So I'm not sort of looking at that so much, although that is part of it. What I'm looking at is what the spatioception can lead to. And what it can lead to is a place of being. So instead of us constantly looking forward, looking back, worrying about stuff, when we go inside and acknowledge the feeling within our body, what are we doing? We're being present. And when we're present, we are being. Nothing else is happening. So it's a tool, if you like, to go into the place of being. But it's also, when you go into being, that's when you can connect. Because that's when you're still. The state of being leads to the state of knowing, because you're connected. A book I recently read by Robert Wolfe, and it's called Original Wisdom, Stories of an Ancient Way of Knowing. And it was his time spent with a Malaysian tribe called the Senoi, is how you'd say it. It's spelled slightly different because they have a guttural language. And he went back and he visited and stayed with the tribe in their village, which was on the edge of the jungle, many times. And he was befriended, put it that way, by I think a man in his 30s called Ahmed. That was the English, or the name he gave himself, even though I don't think it was his actual name. Anyway, so Ahmed began, if you like, teaching Robert Wolfe about the culture. And part of the teaching was to walk in the jungle many, many times, sometimes going all day, and they had no water, no food. And Robert Wolfe sort of put up with it and accepted it, but he did question, what was it leading to? Why were they doing it? And he'd always do it because Ahmed had asked him to. But there was this big questioning about, he couldn't understand what was happening. Until on one occasion, Ahmed had walked on and Wolfe was standing very still. And that's when the magic happened. And he basically understood connection, because he suddenly felt one with everything. He was part of the jungle, he was part of the air, he was part of the soil, and he could see all of nature was inherently connected as part of, if you like, I think he describes it as the skin of the earth. And so he therefore had stepped out, if you like, from the Western way of thinking and gone into the place of being, of expansion, of room, of spatioception within him. You know, he could sense that expansion, and that expansion led him to being, and that being led him to knowing. And the knowing is the connection part, because once you know in that respect, you realise there is nothing except a oneness, a whole, a W-H-O-L-E, not a H-O-L-E, a wholeness. And when you realise you're part of that, it changes your whole perception on everything. And not only does it change your perception, but it changes your ability to interact, your ability to find information. And basically that's what the awakening is about. It's an aid to getting to that place of being and knowing and becoming one and a big part of. So people that have the awakening, what do they report? A better sense of well-being. It can have an effect on your health as well, because if you think of a Venn diagram with the two circles overlap, and one is a point of balance session, which is mainly, inverted commas, about bringing you back into balance and so health, there is an element of the awakening in that. And likewise with the awakening, there's an element of the session, the bringing back into balance, as well as the connection. So they find they can be more healthy. They find that they know their life's path much more easily. They might have been a conundrum, they weren't sure which way to go. And it'll either be that they themselves just sense and think, that's it, that's what I need to do. Or it can be that they something happens. I mean, synchronicities happening after having the awakening, it can be amazing. I had a letter recently with this lady who had the awakening, and on the second day, I should think about 6 things happened that was so synchronistic and so connected to me and to her and to what she was doing. It was mad, totally mad. But that's not going to say it's going to happen every time, but without doubt it puts the person in a much better place to find out the information they need to, if you like, become calm. Because when you get a sense of oneness, a lot of stress dips away. It's because you're part of the bigger picture. You're not this little entity trying to fight your way through everything. You're part of it. And for me, it's been a case of I relax into that. And I know on my page recently, I've put some really weird stuff up about seeing green orbs and connecting to hair energy and things like that. I cannot say anything, but they were real. I can't explain. Well, I might be able to explain it, but I'm not going there now. But it gave me an insight, especially when I connected to the hair energy, about maybe, and I don't know because I've not experienced it, but maybe that's the sort of thing that the Aboriginal tribes experience when they go hunting and they want to find a particular animal. Because it was such a tangible experience for me. It wasn't me thinking, oh, there we are. It stopped me in my tracks, the actual physical sensation. And then, what transpired afterwards was what led me to believe it was hair energy. So, it's a massive thing that when you can step into that place of being and knowing, so much more information is available to you. And I don't know, stress starts falling away because you step into this place of knowledge and love. And it always sounds hippy-dippy shitty when you start to say, oh, all there is love. But quite honestly, the further down the rabbit hole I go, the more I realise it. Because love is being without judgment, acceptance, and knowingness. And, we all have a different perception of the word love and the way it's used. But if you think of it stepping into an energy of total acceptance and non-judgment and happiness, of inclusiveness, then just think of it that way. Don't think of the word love. Just think of that being a different energy, that energy that you'd love to sit in. But to me, that's the answer. That really is. Kindness and caring and every other caring, loving adjective you can think of. That's the way I look at it. But it's also very powerful because you can be you and you feel safe because you feel part of everything. You don't feel the judgments on you. You're part of the bigger picture, the wholeness of the universe. And because you're part of that wholeness, you then have access to all the information. And that's where, for me, when you get on the right path, which I genuinely feel I've been on for the past however many years, everything happens easily. Things fall into your lap. You meet the people you need to meet. Books. This last, 3 weeks has been mad because I've known what I've been feeling, and literally books have fallen into my lap, which have helped me sort of expand the knowledge of what I've been looking at. So that is the sort of the core of the awakening, is to help you connect, to help you feel, to help you step into being, to help you step into wholeness, to help you step into connection with everything. And that, as I said, brings its own benefits. 2 other points about the awakening. The first is, why have I called it the awakening? The thing is, I'm not actually trying to give anything to you. You already possess all of these abilities to connect, to be, to know. So all I'm trying to do is help you awaken them, They're there lying dormant. I totally believe every human being has these abilities. And for me, again, we look at the Aboriginal people all over the world and they utilise them to their fullest. So there's that bit. It's an awakening of a latent skill that lies within you. That's why I call it the awakening. And the other thing is, I don't know if, I think some of you may well follow Warwick Schiller, and maybe you've listened to his podcasts, one in particular with Rupert Isaacson, author of The Horseboy. And in that, he made such a wonderful point because he was very optimistic about our future. And his whole sort of thought pattern was that if we could use ancient knowledge together with modern technology, that would be the way forward. And so here we're looking at, for me, the ancient knowledge is about the connection. It is about feeling. It is about the knowing, which, again, as I said, the Aboriginal people have. And so that's the ancient knowledge, that if we could bring that forward, so we have this amazing connection with everything and everyone and all around us. And then at the same time, don't waste the amazing technologies and advancements we've made, but use them in an appropriate manner, which is connected and takes into account all of those connections. Then we could quite likely see a viable way forward for us all. So, if you'd like to know more, please do go to my website, www.cathyprice.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook, which is where this will be. Get in touch with me. If you've got any questions, anything you'd like to ask or want to know more about, please feel free, because I love talking to people about this work, because I am very grateful that my work is my passion. So I do hope to speak to you soon. And as I said, I'm very sorry this wasn't live, but there you go. But as I said, any questions, just get in touch. Okay, wishing you all a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Love and hugs. Bye.